Hi, everybody. How are y'all? I hope you're doing well today. Today on the show, I have JoJo and Ubaldo. Hi, guys.
Hey, how
Hey,
you doing?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. Today, they're going to be sharing their story. It's a very touching, very moving story, and I really appreciate them coming on the show to share with you guys what journey they have been experiencing with their daughter, their beautiful 3-year-old daughter, Leila. Their daughter, Leila, has rhabdomyosarcoma. Did I say that properly?
Yes, you
yes.
did.
It's a cancer that attacks the muscle. And right as of now, it is right above her uterus. And I'm going to, first of all, let JoJo and Ubaldo introduce themselves, and then we'll get into Leila's beautiful life in just a second. Hi, guys.
Hey.
So,
Tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll start with JoJo.
Oh, great. Okay, so we're going on 11 years of being married, 12 and a half together. I turned 30, and I've wanted Layla in my life literally for like the past it was like 7 years that we were trying, right?
yeah.
And I don't work. I am a stay-at-home mom, and I think that's it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. What about you, Ubaldo?
All right. So we're both Army brats. So we've
Oh,
traveled,
Yeah.
yes. And we actually met in Killeen, Texas. Both of our parents were retired military, and we were going to college there together. I am an assistant manager for Discount Tire Company. So work pretty hard, a lot of hours, but fortunately it covers everything that we need,
good.
so that she could be a stay-at-home mom. Yeah, like she said, we've been married almost 11 years now. We've been trying for a baby 7 years. We were blessed with her on 2014, and since then, I mean, we're just living life, try to travel and handle everything with whatever we have.
That's great. You know, Discount Tire, I used to work, this is just a little side note. I used to work selling tire recycling, and Discount
Really?
Tire was one of my accounts.
Oh wow.
So awesome.
Actually, you know the rubber mulch that y'all used to
Hmm.
sell? That Liberty Tire
Yeah.
recycling.
Yeah,
I worked
Liberty
for them.
Tire.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we
So,
still have an account with Liberty. They pick up every week from us.
oh, how funny. What location? What part of town?
So we actually live in Bernie. I'm at the Bernie
Oh,
location.
that's right. Okay.
Yeah. You know,
So
one of the newer stores in the San
okay.
Antonio area.
That wasn't my territory. My territory was toward Brenham.
Brenham?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the way toward that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
From like Northwest Houston. Anyway, well,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
They've been a really great company for him to work with, and that supported us, especially right now during this journey. They've been so supportive, so
Yeah.
I love
I
this.
couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah.
That's where we have all our tire stuff through Discount Tire. I love Discount
Awesome.
Tire. Good for you. Okay, so let's get started on the reason why I had you guys on the show. I got to know, not really got to know, but JoJo and I became friends on Facebook through a time that I competed in a fitness competition.
Mhm.
And we were talking about meal plans and diets and things like that. And so I started noticing this beautiful woman posting videos with her family and her little girl. And at first I was like, who is this? Because I had never seen you before. And I was like, I must know her. And then I started following your videos, and then I just started falling in love with Leila. I'm like, I don't even know who this family is. But I just saw the love in your family and Leila's beautiful smile and her just happy spirit, and she is such an inspiration. And I'm writing a book called Unprepared Hands. And in the book, it's about parents who are dealt situations that they were not prepared for, and how they use their faith or whatever it is that got them through or getting them through what they're going through. And just, I want to share your story and share it with my listeners because it is very inspirational, because y'all are very real. You're very transparent. And I think it's wonderful that Leila is in the forefront of her own story, you know, and it's wonderful that y'all allow her to be her voice as well. And I just want to get into that. So start off with, let's tell me a little bit about Leila.
Man. She's
a character.
But she's our miracle baby. You know, after trying for so long, I didn't think I'd have her. And it was literally in the darkest moment. She came. She came when him and I we were so, I don't know, hurt in our own relationship because we weren't having Leila. And she literally she was an answer to our prayers. And ever since she was born, she has been such a light. She always smiles. She's always happy. Even when she's sick, I would take pictures and videos of her because she was still smiling. You would never know that she was sick unless you took her temperature. And that's just the type of character she's had ever since she was a baby. Always happy, always smiling, always laughing. And she loves pulling pranks and jokes on people. Yes, that's all my mom's fault. My mom teaches her like all these tricks and pranks, and Leila loves it. Like from day one, she just picked up on it real quick.
That's awesome.
She's just a happy child. She loves to sing. She loves to dance. She loves music in general. Thank God. Yeah. And she's awesome. She's like the best kid ever.
That's great. So how old was Leila when she got diagnosed with cancer, and what signs were there that told you something was wrong?
Leila was just a couple months
she was
her 3. Yeah. Because her birthday is in April, and she was diagnosed officially in July. I knew something was wrong by that April.
July?
Yes, just last year.
Oh, it's just okay.
In like April and May timeframe, I knew something was wrong. Mm-hmm. She started getting really sharp pains in her stomach, and to the point where she would start crying.
And it was random, like
out of nowhere.
And then we would take her to the doctor, and like while we're sitting at the doctor, she'd be like, I'm okay.
Fine. I'm fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there was 2 times that she just threw up randomly, and literally like right after she would throw up, I even posted a video on Facebook. She's like, I want pizza. These were just like random actions. I didn't understand, but I felt uneasy. And there was a dance recital that she had in May, and that day she threw up.
Every practice she was dancing just fine. She was having a good time. And that one day when like the whole family came into town and everything, she just wasn't herself.
She was really quiet. I remember videotaping that one as well. And she did, I think, one dance. That was it. And I had pulled her out of the daycare because she was constantly just constipated. She had gotten sick so many times, and I mean, there's only so many days I can miss from work without them getting upset. So I was like, you know what? We're going to have to quit and just be off of one income. And I'm so happy I did that, because I think had I stayed at that job, I probably wouldn't have noticed that she was so ill.
Okay. And so you took her in to a pediatrician?
We went.
Where did we not take this kid?
We went several times.
We took her several times to a clinic here in Bernie, and it was always just, she's just constipated, give her Miralax. And then
one day we were going to the gym.
Yeah. On our way to the gym, Leila had like that sudden stomach pain and started crying, and I was like, babe, I don't feel right. Let's just go to the ER. And we went, and still to this day, I'm upset because we said no to the X-ray and the CT scan. And had we done it then, maybe we would have known sooner what was going on. But we just chose to do the test swab and the urine analysis, and everything came back negative. And the doctor was so mad at us. He was like, you don't want to do an X-ray or a CT scan? And I'm like, no, we don't have time for that. And we just left. And I still feel so guilty because we would have found out so much sooner had we just done that. But
well, that's parental guilt can plague us on all levels. If we could see everything, there's a lot of things we could do or would do that would make us perfect parents, but that's not real life. So don't beat yourself up about that. Just give yourself constant grace. And I know that's what you would tell me if I was telling you what you're saying. So, yes. Because, anything can happen, and y'all didn't know. And it's not like those things are cheap, at all.
We were worried. We were just like, well, how much is this going to cost us? We weren't sure what our insurance would cover and everything. And we were just like, well, she just said that she was okay. Maybe we're overreacting. And so we left without really
figuring out what was going on. I mean,
absolutely.
We had gone on a trip, him and I, on a couple's trip, and my mom had called me while we were there, and my mom was crying. She was like, there is something wrong with Leila. She is on all fours, crying, in pain, like, you guys need to hurry up and get back. When we did, I took her straight to the ER, which on our way to the ER, we got into a car accident. So it was just like bad luck after bad luck. And they were closing, so they were kind of just trying to rush us out. And they were just like, well, it sounds like she just has constipation. Just give her Miralax again. And then we took her to the ER on post before we came back to San Antonio. And they gave her the Fleet. Yeah. That is like the worst thing to give a toddler. I mean, not even a normal adult wants to do a Fleet or an enema or anything like that. And here I am allowing them to do it to my daughter, and she is screaming in pain. I mean, I couldn't hold it anymore. I had to step out and just cry because I was like, I can't witness this. This is too much. Mm-hmm. And she was screaming in the bathroom. He had to go in with her, and she's just screaming. People are looking at me like I'm torturing my kid. Mm-hmm. I'm like, she's just constipated. Like, I'm telling people, just, she's fine. And she went like 5 times, and I was like, this has to be it. Like, she has to be okay after this. And
it was only like 2 or 3 days later.
2 or 3 days later, we ended up back at the ER for the same reasons, because she was constipated, she was in pain. Same thing. We're now we're at the ER here in San Antonio. Same thing. We got to give her a Fleet. And because you went straight to the restroom, that's why it didn't work. You have to hold her for 2 minutes. Hold a toddler for 2 minutes while she has this Fleet in her, and she is screaming bloody murder. Like, it was the worst experience of my life. And we did that. She went again. She went a lot. I was like, this has to be done. Like, it can't possibly be that much stool. And I remember I was like, I'm just going to have to take her to a GI. So I scheduled an appointment with a gastroenterologist, and they put her on the all clear liquid diet. That was a nightmare. Ubaldo had a business trip in Lake Tahoe, And so it was just me and Leila doing this all clear liquid diet, which she hates Jell-O, she hates chicken broth, she hates apple juice. So I was like, what the heck am I supposed to give her? On top of that, I needed to give her two fleets that day, and I needed to give her 4 ounces of magnesium citrate, and then 4 hours later, another 4 ounces of magnesium citrate. It took me 1 hour to give her the first 4 ounces because that kid was crying. And then once I finally finished giving her that last ounce, she threw up. And so I put her in the tub. I'm calling the GI. I'm basically yelling at them. I'm like, you guys have to help me. Like, what else am I supposed to do? And she was like, if she threw up, you need to take her to the ER, which brings us to our last visit at the ER. He was just flying into San Antonio, and that's where I met him.
Oh, wow. And then when y'all got there, did they end up doing a CT scan and all that there? No?
I wish.
So it actually started off as, again, so with all of this going on, she was scared to use the bathroom. So then we thought, okay, well, she's just building it up. She's scared to use the bathroom. She's constipated again. So I'm coming back from Lake Tahoe. I'm flying in, and she calls me. So I meet her at the hospital. And at this point, we're just like, there's no more fleet. You know, you guys got to try something else. And they decide to do what they call an NG tube, which not even an adult would enjoy this, but it's a tube that goes down the nose and into the stomach. And they pump the medicine through there. It's supposed to break down the mass. So,
well, not only could they not get it right the first time, but they couldn't get it right the second or the third time. So each time they are removing that tube a little bit more, a little bit more, and then redoing the x-rays to see if it's in the right spot. And this kid is literally crying out for each one of us, like, why are you letting them do this to me? Come here. And it was so bad. I felt so guilty because I could see that she's looking at me and crying for help, and I'm just trying to step away from the situation to allow the doctors to do what they needed to do. But the CT scan came by the grace of God because after getting the NG tube, they admitted us to the hospital. They're giving her this medicine called Go Lightly, which is basically like a Miralax, but it's going straight to break down that stool. And the lady was about to go on vacation, the doctor, and she came back in and she was like, you know, this is normally the process. You guys are usually here for a few days until her stool is completely clear. And I'm like, well, she's already gone like 2 or 3 times. It's clear. And so she starts feeling on her stomach and she's like, something's just not right. Let's do a CT scan. And it was that same, probably like a few hours later, we had a CT scan ordered in, and then our good old oncologist shows up and gives us the great news. So it was a process to get what we wanted done, to understand why she was in that pain. Everyone just jumped the gun. It's hardened stool. It's this, it's that. Never really doing a CT scan to confirm or reassure themselves that it was hard stool and not a mass or a tumor or something that would explain why it hadn't shrunk in size, especially with so many times that she had the fleet and these valve movements, and it was very frustrating.
Sure. And then the oncologist comes in, and what does he say?
A lot of his, you could tell he was nervous. So I knew it wasn't good news, but he kept using the word mass. And so I'm thinking, okay, there's just a mass. They can operate, they can take it out. It was one moment that he slipped up and says tumor. And I was like, whoa. Like, tumor like cancer? And he was like, well, it can be cancerous or it could be benign. That's what we need to do the biopsy for, to determine that. And I looked at Ubaldo, and he immediately started crying. I put up a wall. I was like, I'm zoned out. I can't talk to anybody right now. We're two completely different people when it comes to handling something so sensitive, especially when it comes to Leila. And I usually break down on my own, but he's more emotional. It doesn't matter who's around him. So one of us had to put up the wall.
That's interesting. So he said, do you hear that? So then he said there was a tumor, and then they did the biopsy, and how long did that take, and what were y'all going through? I mean, my God, that's nerve-wracking. How long did that take for them to get back to you?
So everything was set up actually pretty quickly. As soon as we found out, of course, what was going on, we contacted our family, and within a few hours, our family was already there too. Yeah. I think they showed up as she was getting the procedure done.
Yeah.
So what they decided to do was do a bone marrow test and the biopsy, and to install the port. And so the port was a decision we made. It's meant to make it easier for her to get her blood drawn, have labs done, and for her to get her medicine where it's not so painful and it's not an IV every time in her arm. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and it was just a few hours later. He came out, and it was the doctor that was supposed to do the surgical procedure. So he was a different guy, and he was very rude, very blunt about what it was. He immediately just came out and was like, okay, she's got cancer.
No heart, no emotion behind anything.
No empathy or anything.
Yeah. He just straight up, I mean, he wasn't supposed to give us a diagnosis, period. All he was supposed to do was the biopsy, turn it in, and have them test it to see if it's cancerous. And his belief was, I've done this so many times, I've seen cancer before, it's cancerous. And I guess there's a way to
I agree.
There's a way to say things.
Oh yeah.
He was just heartless.
My aunt went to MD Anderson, and she had colon cancer previously. She was having a lot of headaches, and so I went with her to the ER, and I'm like, what do you think it is? Because she couldn't stop throwing up, and because the headaches were so strong. Anyway, she said, I think I ate a bad kolache. I have, really bad headaches. But we went to MD Anderson because that's where her doctors were, because they had been still treating her for, colon cancer. Well, they just left her there. We got there at like 2 p.m. They left her there. It was like 2 a.m. Oh, by this point, the rest of our family members had left. I'm still sitting with her. I used to work for doctors until about 2 months ago, for over 10 years. I get that doctors can be jerks, and many of them don't have bedside manner. And I also get that they're human and they get distracted and they go on these rounds and they're talking to reps and they're talking to different people. I was pissed. So I went to the nurse's station and threw a huge fit. And I said, I don't care where he is. Get him here now. Yeah. Somebody's around here. So you need to get whoever's around here. So he comes over. He comes out of this area. And he's like, are you her family? And I said, yeah. He's like, well, she's got brain tumors. Wow. And I'm thinking, and he goes, there's nothing we can do. And I said, were you just going to wait till like nobody was here and tell her that? Like until she was all alone? I'm like, my God. He goes, well, when do you want me to tell her? I'm like, now. So he walks into the room, like kind of leans over at her. He goes, you've got lesions all over your brain. Just like that. And she's like, what's that? Oh, man. He goes, you've got tumors all over your brain and there's nothing we can do. I mean, he had no emotion. He could care less. He was looking at her like, okay, what are you going to do? Wow. And of course, she just sat back and she goes, oh, and she starts crying and I start crying. I wanted to punch him out, of course, I wanted to punch him. So, believe me, you're not the only one that has wanted to punch a doctor for having no bedside manner. And I'm sorry that y'all went through that, because That's definitely something I think they need more training in. Not all, but some for sure, especially in that kind of practice.
Yes.
Especially in that kind of practice. So he tells y'all, and this is the part where your life, obviously, there's this huge, like the rug got pulled out from under you.
Yeah.
Your life starts flashing before your eyes, and you're like, what in the world just happened? This is not real, you know? And so this is where I want you to know other people are listening, and things like this are happening to them.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you respond to that news? And I want you to be as transparent as you possibly can, because not all of us would handle that kind of news very well.
No, I mean, I don't think anyone could handle it well initially.
Yeah.
And initially, I'm going to be completely honest, all Christian was out the window. I went straight to the bathroom. I locked myself in there, and I kind of just blacked out. I remember crying and screaming. I know that I punched a couple walls in there because my hands were hurting afterwards. I threw my phone. I did just about everything I could think of. And then when I finally let my mom come in, and I told her, I said, this is my fault. I did this to her. God's punishing me for, my mistakes in the past. And he's taking it out on my daughter. Like, how can he do that? This isn't fair. She's only 3. What am I supposed to do? And, I just constantly blamed myself. It didn't matter. My mom continuously was reminding me that it wasn't my fault and that Leila's life has purpose. But man, there was nothing you could tell me that at that moment that made me feel any better or less guilty. At that moment, it was my fault. I caused her to have cancer. No one, ironically, when the oncologist had spoke to us, he told us it's a very rare cancer, period. On top of how rare it is, for Leila, it just happened. Okay, so how do you go and accept it when genetically she didn't have a reason to have cancer? So, of course, I blamed myself. I blamed the foods that I gave her. I blamed my mistakes and God punishing me for that. And, at that moment, I was angry with the world, and nothing that anybody told me, nothing helped. He went into a different direction. And when something like this happens, a difficulty, a tear in our lives, you would assume that initially the parents join together, they become stronger. And no, initially we separated. I went my way to deal with it my way, and he left. I think he went with my brother somewhere, and we just didn't talk for those hours. I don't know if you want to tell her what it was you did, because I still don't know.
So for so long we've wanted a kid, and then my little princess comes out. And so just to know that there's something that she's going through that you can't do anything to help her with. So I just broke down. And that was all I could do. I just wanted to be off by myself and just let it all out.
It's all of us, when we go through grief, because it doesn't have to be just a grief of a life, right? There's grief of your plans that you had, the grieving of letting go of what you wanted or what you want for your kids. And when things happen that are opposite of what you planned, and we all want what's amazing and wonderful for our kids, we never want to see them suffering. So there's a different kind of grief that you have to go through. And what y'all experienced at that moment was just grief, anger, pain, shock, disbelief, and how do you process that. Everybody has a different way. That's why they always say everybody's timing is different on how they process it.
Yeah.
And some people go into a shell and other people just need to talk it out, and it's so important that people understand when they're going through grief to give yourself grace. Yeah. Give yourself a lot of grace, because there are so many stages of grief and you bounce around from each stage sometimes, and sometimes it hits like a big wave, and other times it's just, it touches your feet and comes, and you have to fight it and not want to jump in the water with the grief. You just let it come and let it go. You don't want to stay there, but that can be really hard, and sometimes people think it'll never go away. But tell me how you guys have handled, this process and this journey. How do you handle when Leila is going through a hard time? Basically, how do you handle your grief? How do you handle this journey?
Well, luckily we have a lot of spiritual support, a lot of friends, a lot of family. It's not something that we could have done by ourselves and made it to the level that we're at the moment without support. We had a lot of friends come and visit us from out of town. I mean, they would drive 3 and 4 hours just to get there, just to make sure that we were okay. People we barely knew, they would bring us dinner, just to make things easier for us. You want to tell about
people that even donated.
What Rosalie started.
Yeah, one of her godparents had set up a You Caring account, and she posted it online with my permission, and she was like, I believe that by the end of tonight you guys are already gonna hit $1,000. And for me, for anybody, for people to donate to that type of account and already hit 1,000 by the end of the night, I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And can you believe we hit over 1,000 by midnight that night? And she told me, she was like, all I ask, she was like, I felt it in my heart, and I need to tell you this, it's just everything that you receive as a gift, just remember to tie to the church, tie to God. And I was like, in my heart, I was already feeling the same way. So on top of the blessings we were receiving, we blessed our church, we gave in our 10%. And it was so much good came from that. I want to say that it was from that because we respected the fact that God was blessing us. God was touching people's hearts to bless us, and why not give it back to him? So we put in our part, and from that so much, we had a guy at Ross. I still don't know what his name is, so if he's listening, hi. He saw Leila, and he came up to me, and he said, I want to pay for everything you're getting. It was over $100 worth at Ross.
Oh my gosh.
It was long sleeves for Leila, some loose pants because she was going to start radiation, some beanies, like just a bunch of Leila stuff. And he was like, I want to pay for everything. And
wow.
I was so touched. Immediately I started crying, and he started asking about Leila and how she's doing. But I started crying because I had just told my mom, I said, we got out of this financial freedom class, and the teachers, the people that were giving the class mentioned, we're in such a good place right now that if we feel in our heart, we see somebody that looks like they're in need and, they're at HEB getting some groceries, we'll pay for their grocery. And I told my mom, I was like, I wish that would happen to me. I was like, nobody ever pays for my groceries. And literally it was like days later, this guy at Ross just cuts the line and was like, I'm going to pay for her stuff. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that, it's God. God is blessing us through people, families that we've never met, donating $500, $1,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I I've never met them face to face. They found us on Facebook through, people sharing our story. And Ubaldo has a great testimony of a couple that he met in Fort Worth on his drill. So I have to let him talk.
All right.
All right. Let's hear it.
Okay. Forgive me if I tear up again.
I'll give you
This is awesome.
So on my drill weekend, I had a drill weekend. Well, I had to leave for annual tour, and so that I have to be gone out of town for a couple of days. And in Fort Worth, Dallas area, there's a church in South Lake called Gateway, and we used to go there when we lived in Fort Worth. And so I was like, well, what better thing to do today than to go there? And so I go, and I rarely go by myself, but this time I'm here by myself. I'm all like looking around. Okay, I'll sit back here or whatever. And I'm early, and I was like, man, I'm early. I don't want to just sit down right now, but I know that if I leave, they're gonna take my spot real quick. I had a good spot, so this couple sits down behind me, and I don't know. I just felt comfortable enough to be like, hey, if I sit my sunglasses here, would you mind just watching the seat for me? And they were like, yeah, no problem. So I went, I got me a drink, used the bathroom, came back, service started, and there was like nobody in that section. I was like, okay, that's weird.
You just hang up and you lost your battery.
I knew that was sorry.
It's okay.
So, and I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, this church, like, you're always fighting for a seat. And like, I didn't have anybody sitting next to me, and there was like 3 seats and everything. So, the service goes on, this, that, and the other. And then at the end, I'm walking out, and the guy behind me, the one I spoke to, was like, hey, what's your name? And I was like, oh, so I tell him, and he goes, did you invite somebody and they didn't show? I was like, no, I came by myself. And then he looked at me like, oh, okay. And he kind of walked away. So I felt in my heart, I was like, I wonder if like God was trying to get him to tell me something and he just didn't get the message. But I walked away. I was like, okay. Well, as I'm walking away, I end up in the parking lot, and well, he ends up behind me. And I look behind me, and I see him, and he notices me. He's like, hey man, look, I promise I'm not a stalker, but I feel in my heart that I have something to talk to you about. I don't know what it is. Yeah. So he invited me to lunch, him and his wife. By the way, his name is Brian and Shelly Allen. So yeah, Brian Allen. And so he invited me to lunch, and usually I don't go. I'm like, no, I'm busy, or I got something going on. And he was like, do you have any plans? And I'm like, no. So he was like, I'd like to buy you lunch. And so I was like, wow, this is really weird, but okay, I'm going to go with it. And so I'm in my car, and he was like, just follow me. So I follow him. I'm like, God, like, I really hope I'm not about to get murdered here. Like, I don't know what's going on. But I was like, okay, man, I'm like, I'm letting you take the wheel. I'm just going to roll with it. And so, fast forward to the restaurant, we get there, we start to get to know each other, and we start talking about my daughter, and he just starts crying. So, of course, I start crying. And so he knows several people in his family that passed away from cancer, and he's a very strong prayer warrior. He's got a huge connection to a large group of people who pray, and immediately just felt connected with me. And he felt God telling him that the reason sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Take your time.
The reason that nobody sat next to me was because he felt
the presence of the Holy Trinity. He felt God.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he said, I just felt that there. And so those seats weren't taken because they were there with you. And so even though you came alone, you were accompanied by the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
You have to
That's
get
amazing.
back in the camera.
Ubaldo's hiding from the camera while he cries. That's okay. That's okay. That's amazing. And that's beautiful. And that's a beautiful picture of really all of us and people who are listening, who are walking through things, right? And they feel so alone. God really is with us. I believe that with all my soul, that there are angels that surround us, that even our loved ones that have passed are still guiding us and visiting us. And, we're one with God. And that's so beautiful.
Yeah, when he told me that, because it was so funny, he called me, and I'm always in a rush. Always, I think still to this day, I'm always in a rush. And he calls me, and I'm doing my makeup or something, about to get ready to leave, and he's all like, "Hey, babe, do you have a second?" And I have him on Bluetooth and everything. I'm like, "I have a second, babe, a second." What is it? And he's all like, "I have to tell you." He's like, "No, it's okay. If you don't have time, that's okay." And I could tell in his voice that it was something important. And I was like, "Be a good wife. Be a good wife." I was like, okay. I was like, "Go ahead, sweetheart. Tell me what happened." And he starts talking, and I'm like crying. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "Babe, that's so awesome. You never even go on Saturdays. And look, you went on Saturdays, and you went on Sunday, you received message, you received something." And it was just so awesome. Like, just for him to get that experience, I felt like he truly needed like a reassurance that God was there with us. Ubaldo has always been the type to be emotional, but he's more, he puts up a front that he's very strong because, he's the man of the house. And I've always felt it. I felt the moment that Leila was diagnosed, I lost a little piece of him. And I was like, "Please, God," I'm like, "bring him back to me stronger than ever, because he's with me. He's the head of the household. He's my love. He's everything. I can't lose him to this." And he came back from that experience a completely different person. And I was so grateful, because I prayed for that so much, for him to have an experience. I mean, we had another prophecy from another couple we don't talk to, we don't know them, but from our church here in Bernie. And he told us, we knew we were coming to visit Leila. He was part of the prayer team. And he was like, "And before I came, I had a dream last night, and I wanted to let you know that despite what the doctors have told you, God has told me that Leila will be a mom, will be a grandma, will be a great grandma." And he was like, "And I need you to hold on to that word, because you're going to go through an experience, that is it's going to test us, but trust in God." Sure enough, I think it was that same day, man, the devil is a liar. Same day, the doctor comes up to us, explains her diagnosis and the treatment process, and tells us that because she's going to undergo radiation, and she's so small, they can't protect her ovaries. They can't save her eggs because she hasn't had a menstrual cycle. They can't do anything to save her fertility option in the future. And again, here I am. Initially, I'm human, so initially my reaction is, great, I'm taking away the one thing that my kid has to potentially bear children, and I'm taking that away. I was like, well, how can I say yes, go ahead and do it? And then I had to just think about it, and I'm like, well, she can be mad at me later, but I need to save my kid's life. And as much as it hurt me, I researched everything I could possibly think of, and I was like, please, God, help me save this. And then my husband was just like, remember what he said, remember his word, remember the promise he made. And I'm like, look, at this point, even if it starts off as just her adopting, as long as she's happy and she's alive to be a mom, to be a grandma, to be a great grandma, I have to accept this. God is in control of our situation. And I think that was my breaking point. I literally just gave it all to him. I was like, I can't stress about every little detail anymore. And every news that the doctors gave me, I'm just like, in one ear, right out the other. I'm just like, I'm not going to stress about it anymore. Why am I going to stress when in the end we still have the same answer? God is in control. And I just couldn't do it anymore. It's so exhausting to feel that way, to feel that you don't have control. And I was just like, I'm done with it. I just gave it all to him, and the glory of God has really taken over the situation.
You know, I was just talking to my daughter before the podcast started. She's a young mom and she worries about things. And so I had her write down how she wanted things to be, you know, in certain areas with the kids. I'm like, how do you picture yourself with Jack? How do you picture yourself with William? Instead of worrying about what could possibly happen in the future, because Jack's father passed away from suicide.
Wow.
And we found him. And so there's a lot of guilt and trauma obviously associated with that. And so Megan is bringing up with her husband now, you know, my grandson Jack, who she's fighting through the guilt, right? And so I said, how, instead of worrying about how things could be and how Jack could end up or whatever, how do you picture yourself in an ideal situation? How do you picture yourself with them? And so she started writing things down. They see me, they come to me and they're comforted. They're happy when they're around me. I'm confident. And she starts saying these things. And then I read to her in Matthew 6, I think it is, 7 through 12. And it's about how Jesus told us not to worry, and instead how he told us to pray. And my point in showing her this passage, because it's the passage of the Lord's Prayer, you know, and the whole thing I pointed out to her was Jesus was saying right after the Lord's Prayer, don't worry. You know why? All of it, even the Lord's Prayer, he's asking us to be in the present. Right. All of it. Hey, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about this. Your Father in heaven knows what you need. Look at the flowers in the field. Look at the birds in the air. And so I'm like, Megan, it's so important that we stay in the present. It is why kids are so resilient. They don't think about the outcome. They don't think about being sick. They still play, right? She's still enjoying life. She's living in the moment. She's enjoying the present. And that is truly, they truly, truly are the picture of how God wants us to be with him. Mm-hmm. Kids are a true picture of how God wants us to be with him, in the sense that they are just trusting, right? They just trust. They love with abandonment. They forgive with abandonment. They enjoy the present. And so I was talking to her about that very thing, just what you said. You know, you can't waste your energy constantly on the what ifs. It's exhausting, and it takes away from your time with your loved ones that you could be pouring into them. It doesn't mean that we're not, like we talked about the wave coming at us. It doesn't mean the waves aren't going to come and hit us and even knock us down sometime. It just means we get right back up and again say, it's okay. I don't know what, I can't tell the future, you know? And so it's so important to just enjoy today. Exactly. All of us one day, you know, are not going to be here, and it's not ever going to be ideal. You know, who knows how I'm going to go, you know, or you guys or anybody. It's never ideal, and it's never the right time. Mm-hmm. It's always just enjoy the everyday God gives you as much as we can, you know, and great, amazing, divine things like what Ubaldo experienced, like what you've experienced, start happening when you put yourself in the positions. Like, you guys aren't just walking through this passively. Mm-hmm. You guys are putting yourself in the position to be in an energy of faith, to be in a spirit of faith. You know, oh God, I can't do this by myself. I have to be around positive people. I have to be around a faith environment. So you're not sitting around taking this, you know, passively. You're actually taking control, co-creating the future with God by agreeing with the promises that you believe he's given you, and that's all we can do.
Yep.
We have to understand that we're co-creators with him. And so I had my daughter write down in the affirmative, not, I trust God for this. No, God already gave you that. Quit putting it on him like he's some genie in a bottle. He already gave you that. I said, Megan, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. He already showed us in Matthew how to pray, and it's in the present. He already said you have everything you need. So walk it out with him. And so I had her write everything in the affirmative. I am teaching. I am doing this. I am doing that. I said, look at your whole demeanor has changed. Just in you acknowledging what you already have, instead of constantly putting it out into the future and waiting. That's torture. I said, it's like me handing you or opening my hands and saying, I have $100 for you, Megan. But you saying, Mom, I can't wait till I get that $100. You know what I mean? And my mom has $100 from you. I'm trusting my mom for $100. And I'm just like, I'm telling you where the $100 is. This is ridiculous, Megan. It's that kind of picture, right? That there's so many things that I think, especially in Christianity, nobody wants to see themselves as a co-creator with Christ because they think they're taking the place of God. But yet all through the New Testament, Jesus says, you will do greater things than me. He wasn't kidding. He wasn't joking when he said that. He wants us to use him as an example and follow him. So y'all are very, very, if there's one lesson that everybody can get through this is don't sit back and take information that you've received and think that you're helpless. Sometimes that's it. You feel that way. You feel helpless. And that's another thing I told my daughter. It's like when you go to an orthopedic surgeon and your knee is ruined, one of the first things they tell you for rehab, you need to exercise the muscles around your knee to help support it because your knee is too weak to support itself. And so y'all have put yourself in a place to get that support, to get that strength. Interestingly enough, that's where you got your faith back, through people that you surrounded yourself with. So that's a huge lesson for people listening. Please, if anything, go to places where your faith is renewed. Maybe there are people y'all are talking to as well right now who have lost their faith in God because they did put these expectations on him that were, I'm not going to say unrealistic, but it's asking him to do something that we want, as if he's supposed to jump to our, command. And then we use the Bible to twist it around and say, well, you said that you would do anything I said. No, that it never says that. But I don't know if it's a subconscious thing or what, but we think he's like a little genie. We rub, he responds, and then he goes back there on the shelf. And then when we need something else, rub, no, it does not work that way.
We don't have to go there whenever we're going.
I used to think of God that way, actually. And I used to get so mad at him, when I was a lot younger. I had a rude awakening. I'm like, well, he's not going anywhere, and I seem to be the only one in this relationship that's having a problem. So either I'm getting it wrong or he's way off and doesn't know that he's not doing it right, like the way I want him to, and it's not that way, right?
Right.
So I had to readjust my thinking. And once I did, I empowered myself. I started seeing things differently in the Bible and realized that he's already empowered me to live out my destiny. And sometimes it's not how I expected it to be, and I don't understand. I didn't understand why we found Forrest. why that happened under my watch. You know what I mean? It's like, how could that happen? I love kids, and he was just a kid. But there are some things we're not going to understand, and we need to use those things to first be healed from when we're going through the grief, and then reach out to other people to help pull them through what they're going through as well. And y'all are doing that. And I know y'all are doing that because I watch your videos on Facebook, and it is very beautiful to see your story being shared. So give us an update on Leila and what's going on with her. And I guess, just let us know what's going on.
Well, Leila's still touching people's lives. Despite what she was going through, I think more so now through this journey, she's impacting people. Okay, so the other day, I have to tell this story. The other day, she calls my mom. My mom, she goes through these stages where sometimes she's a little stressed out and she gets anxiety and she starts to cry. Well, she started thinking about Leila, and she just felt super emotional. Leila calls my mom, FaceTimes her. I did not know. And she goes, her nickname for my mom is Bita. And she goes, Bita, are you okay? And my mom looked surprised because she couldn't believe that my daughter had noticed so quickly that there was something wrong. And she goes, yeah, baby, I'm okay. And she goes, no, Bita. Look at me in my eyes. Look at me. And then when my mom looks up, she's like, were you crying? And she goes, yes, Mama, but I'm okay. And she's like, Bita, I love you. You're going to be okay. And like totally cheered her up. My mom received that call when she needed it because Leila, her spur of the moment, people that we met in radiation, that go twice a day, every day for radiation, and they're driving almost an hour to get there. And Leila was the only one to be able to make them smile. Kids that have other forms of cancer that were there and that were so ill, and Leila was so resilient. She interacted with all the nurses. They even adopted her, I guess you can say, adopted her for Christmas and just filled her up with a whole bunch of gifts. Because Leila was so active, even while she was getting radiation, even while she was getting chemo. And right now, the size of the cancer initially was 6.3 centimeters by 7 by 8.8. So for us, it's not that big, but you're talking about a 3-year-old. And so the size of that was pretty big. It was taking up part of like the left kidney, and then it was touching the uterus. And it's now, by the grace of God, the last CT scan was January 9th, and it's now at 2.3 by 2.6 by 1.9.
Wow.
The only thing we can't seem to do yet is have it surgically removed, because it's still wrapped around a major artery, the iliac artery. No surgeon wants to get near it, and that's totally fine by me because I prefer a surgeon that is secure and 100% confident that they can remove it when they go in and remove it. So our prayer now is just that within these last few weeks of chemo that this cancer will just disappear, or that it's small enough where it doesn't touch any major arteries or anything like that. But right now, there's been a shortage of the chemo that she's supposed to be receiving. It's a nationwide shortage. So we have been the lucky few to not be able to receive chemo. So she missed last week's chemo, and possibly this Tuesday she'll miss it again, and then she'll probably get back on the following week. April is her birthday month, and for her birthday week, she's already been approved by Make-A-Wish to go to Disney. And I think I'm more excited than she is because I don't think she understands.
Yeah.
So that week she won't have chemo. She'll get to celebrate. When we come back, she'll have another CAT scan. And then from there, they'll pretty much determine if she can get surgery. But regardless, she'll have another 12 weeks of chemo. And once those 12 weeks are up, then she's supposed to be in, I guess, what is it called?
Remission.
Yeah, like she won't have any more chemo. We'll just come and visit like every 3 months and just have her checked up.
Yeah.
But her hair's growing back. And I'm so excited because I would get so mad when we would go to the stores and everybody's like, hello, little boy, or hi, young man.
No.
And you've seen how I dress her. I don't dress up my kids like a boy. So I'm like, these people are so ignorant to think that a little kid with short hair is automatically a boy. I'm like, you guys, I would get so mad. I'm just like, Leila, just keep walking. Just keep walking.
That's too
But she's doing great.
She's doing good.
She hasn't gotten sick. This is how I know it's God. The doctor told us, we're going to give you a pass, like a little VIP pass for whenever she gets sick. You go straight to the ER. You show them this VIP pass. Don't take her out of the car until they have her room ready. You're just going to go straight back. You guys are bound to visit the ER at least once or twice during this process. Leila has yet to have a fever.
Oh, wow.
Leila has not gotten the flu. And the flu over here has been attacking everybody. Leila hasn't gotten the flu. And I think I can count how many times she threw up. I think it was twice.
It was only once.
And it was during her overnight chemo treatments. She is so strong. So strong. And even after the surgery, they told us she probably wouldn't want to walk. And I just expressed to her, I was like, hey, baby, mommy wants you to try to walk whenever you want because it'll help you feel better. It'll help you heal faster. So if you want to walk, you can walk. And if not, and so like, yeah, the first day, literally my husband had to carry her everywhere. So she did not want anybody to touch her but my husband. But she started walking the very next day, very slowly, but she was determined to walk. And she was, man, that first day, I still have videos of her in pain. When I would try to talk to her and record her, she was crying in pain, but she's so strong. And she has not changed. She had chemo and she can still be running around this house like a little Energizer bunny.
Yeah.
Nothing slows this kid down. And so I know it's God in control.
Yeah, and she's also a reflection of you guys too.
Amen.
Don't underestimate the power of your perspective and your faith by no means, because that is definitely transferring to her, and she's very blessed. She's very lucky to have you guys in her life and doing what you're doing. And, you know, I'm very encouraged by your faith. It's inspiring to me too, because just the fact that y'all can be so positive, and Leila's in that same spirit too, and no matter what you're going through, that really is inspirational. You know, a lot of times we complain about stupid little things in life, and then you meet a family like yours who has real life issues going on, and to see your faith is really encouraging. And I know that it's not like that all the time, and you don't feel like rainbows and roses all the time. So I'm not trying to say that that's how it always is, but I do appreciate you sharing what you have, because I think anybody listening definitely gets the picture of what's getting you through this.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone they should always remember, it's like what our pastor said this morning, that our view of God impacts everything else. So if I view God as a God of love, then everything else is love. And that's how we have to believe it. If I am always angry with God, then I'm just an angry person. And every scenario that comes our way will be that way. So as long as you have faith in God and that he can be in control of whatever situation you're going through, everything else seems so minimal.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And so hopefully you guys have helped restore faith to some people who have kind of lost it. I want to end with a quote from my grandson. My daughter sent me this. She was going through a hard time, and this is the grandson who lost his dad.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, that boy can pray. It is amazing how strong of a prayer life this kid has. And he always initiates it too. But she says, this was earlier today, this morning. She says, Jack and I were listening to praise and worship music in the car, and he was listening to the words, and he goes, okay, I'm going to cry. He goes, that's real. That's all real, right? Everything that guy is singing, God is your vision.
Oh my goodness.
She said, and it was something so simple to say, but this boy is going to move mountains with Christ. And so I thought, wow, for Jack to say, everything that guy is singing is real, Mom.
Yeah.
And God is your vision. That is so powerful. Yeah. And if we could just keep that in our thoughts when we're going through a hard time, when nothing on the outside looks like it's okay.
Right.
But, eagles fly super high and they can see from a higher perspective. And so us down here, we see very limited. But if we keep in mind that God is our vision, like Jack says, then I think we'll deal with life a lot more gracefully and courageously. And like you guys, still be able to laugh and smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show. You have no idea how appreciative I am of you guys sharing your story. It is extremely touching. And all of us will continue to pray for you and your family and little Leila. And what page is she on that is that something that people can see her journey and join? Okay, what is that?
It's under Team Leila, Leila.
Facebook.
And it's through Facebook. And all her updates are going to be on there. All her silly videos go up there. So we try to do a couple fun ones. She loves acting, so so it's always fun to record her.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll all get on Facebook and go and support Team Leila and cheer her on in her journey. And just thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.